Assalamualaikum and hi. Today we would like to present and discuss on factors affecting exchange rate of United Kingdom. Hope you enjoy the video. The United Kingdom or Great Britain is a country in Europe of the northern western coast of the continental mainland. It comprises England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. For information, their official language is English and their official religion is Christian. The currency for UK is in pound sterling. And the total area of the United Kingdom is 242,495 square kilometers with an estimated population of more than 67 million people. The top imports of United Kingdom are gold, cars, broadcasting equipment, packaged medicaments and crude petroleum. The top exports of United Kingdoms are cars, packaged medicaments, gas turbines, gold and crude petroleum.
Based on asymmetry ARDL, confirm long-term relationship between United Kingdom import and exchange rate volatility, as well as other decision variables such as United Kingdom real income and relative import price ratio. This relationship holds regardless exchange rate, for example nominal or real, and selected period time before and after, including during the financial crisis. Furthermore, the case of long-term asymmetry is the financial crisis showing the structural shift is this long-term relationship variable have been caused by this crisis. This statement also applies where they are third country of exchange rate.
Moving on to the next part, which is factors affecting exchange rate of United Kingdom, which is pound sterling. The first factor is inflation. Generally, inflation rate refers to a state in which price constantly rise during a certain period. A high level of inflation for a long time can adversely influence the economic situation. A higher inflation rate in the UK compared to other countries will tend to reduce the value of the pound sterling. This is because high inflation in UK means that UK goods increase in price quicker than European goods. Therefore, UK goods become less competitive. Other than that, the overall level of economic activity in UK is another key factor that can impact currency values. The primary measure of economic activity in UK, as in many other countries, is the gross domestic product (GDP). There are three different GDP reports traders should be aware of, which are preliminary GDP, revised GDP, and final GDP. The preliminary GDP estimate is released the earliest and tends to have the biggest impact because it gives traders a first look into the economic health of UK. The third factor is real interest rate. Interest rate, inflation and exchange rates are all highly correlated. By manipulating interest rate, central bank exert influence over both inflation and exchange rates, and changing interest rate impact inflation and currency value. Higher interest rate offer lenders in an economy a higher return relative to other countries. Therefore, higher interest rate attract foreign capital and cause the exchange rates to rise. The opposite relationship exists for decreasing interest rate, that is, lower interest rate tend to decrease exchange rate. The last factor is current account balance. The UK's current account balance is a measure of the country's balance of payments (BOP) with the rest of the world in trade, primary income and secondary income. The current account balance shows how much a country is exporting and importing and the flow of income payments and transfer payments.
The table shows the descriptive statistic for the Great Britain pound. The data collected is for 34 years. We can see that the highest mean is inflation with 3.5856, while the lowest mean is current account balance of GDP with negative 1.8246. As for standard deviation, the highest is GDP growth with 8.5866, while the lowest among the factors is exchange rate with 0.0626. The value of correlation of the current account balance of GDP and real interest rate related to the exchange rate is 0.244 and 0.091 respectively, where it can be considered as positive correlation, as it can be explained that if the current account balance of GDP and real interest rate increase, the exchange rate of pound is also increased. while the value for inflation is negative 0.237, while the value for GDP growth is negative 0.329. Both of these factors shows negative correlations with the exchange rate. From this, we can conclude that if both the inflation and GDP growth increase, the exchange rate of pound will also be increased. The significance of this figure points to the positive significant influence that GDP trade has on the exchange rate. Consequently, the alternative hypothesis is accepted and the null hypothesis is rejected. For GDP growth, inflation, and real interest rate, as well as the current balance of GDP, has significant effect on the exchange rate, and the null hypothesis is accepted. The value of R squared is 0.428. It means that approximately 42.8% of the exchange rate of pound sterling is explained by the GDP growth, real interest rate, inflation, and current account balance of GDP. Meanwhile, for the value of adjusted R squared is equal to 0.350, it shows that 35% of the variation exchange rate variability. The dependent variable is likely explained by the independent variables. The value of correlation of the current account balance of GDP and real interest rate related to the exchange rate is 0.244 and 0.091 respectively, where it can be considered as positive correlation, as it can be explained that if the current account balance of GDP and real interest rate increase, the exchange rate of pound is also increased, while the value for inflation is negative 0.237, while the value for GDP growth is negative 0.329. Both of these factors shows negative correlations with the exchange rate. From this, we can conclude that if both the inflation and GDP growth increase, the exchange rate of pound will also be increased.
In conclusion, this study has analyzed that GDP growth, inflation, consumer prices, real interest rate, and current account balance has affected the United Kingdom currency, which is pound sterling, against US dollar in the long run. It can be proven from the previous empirical evidence presented. Those empirical evidence has shown that GDP growth, inflation, consumer prices, real interest rate, and current account balance have a positive impact in the exchange rate of United Kingdom.